24 hours since the country was plunged into darkness.
After a whole night of countrywide darkness,
the country was hit by a nationwide blackout.
Friday night, August 25th. Kenyans are forced into a day of darkness, powerless for hours as the whole country lost power. A national shame it was called, and public confidence in a solution flickered like the light on this flame. The cost of power and reliability of power are two concerns that Kenyans have. And on this week of Earthwise, we tell you how these two are connected, what climate change has to do with it, and why blowing out a candle does not have to leave us without power. Hi, this week Earthwise takes you on a tour. I wonder how much you know about the energy production in the country, particularly geothermal energy production. Did you know that literally the entire Rift Valley has the potential to produce geothermal power for this country? The difference is how much temperature each of those locations yields. So today, we go into the Rift Valley, and guess who is our tour guide?
My name is Captain Bonface Naka from the Chief Pilot Kenya Pipeline Company. I grew up in Machakos County. I'm a pilot, and I started my career 23 years ago. So having logged in over 8,000 flying hours on the helicopters, I've seen and I've experienced climate change myself, and having traversed the country and the continent, I've seen physical changes and the physical degradation that has come as a result of climate change. Areas that were once water catchment areas are not water catchment areas anymore. We have forested areas that have become semi-arid. We have food heavy areas. Then, as I was growing up, and even as I started flying, in the span of 23 years, I've seen areas that would produce a lot of food now not able to do that. So I attribute a lot of poverty levels that we see to both climate change and overpopulation. As I was growing up, and even as I was starting my career, families that would wouldn't have difficulty in terms of providing for their subsistence nowadays are unable to, because the areas where they would cultivate subsistence food crops are not viable anymore. And then again, we're also seeing increased families as a result of this population. So I think a lot needs to be done. Not tomorrow, like immediately, like starting yesterday, to be able to mitigate the effects of climate change.
Where we starting today is Masinga Dam. As you can see, the dam level currently is at 1041.12, so we can only do about 12 megawatts per unit. But because of the water management and the levels are quite low, because we are almost 15 meters below the maximum level, which is 1056, we are only running one unit at 12 megawatts. As we keep the other unit number 2 on standby, just in case it's being needed by the system, we just, but we are running one unit because of the water management. The last time we had this kind of phenomenon, poor hydrology, was during the season before we got the rains. That is allowed February, March, the levels went below 1037, and below 1037 usually cause Masinga because of the cavitation, because water tends to come with air and it cavitates the runner. So when the levels go below 1037, we usually stop running Masinga. This came up about the year 2000, when we had the lowest level, which were about 1018.
To be able to read and understand the rest of what I've sent you for 14, 15, 16, 17, and even yesterday, the hydro on this particular day dispatched 21%.
Electricity is now such an integral part of our lives that you cannot imagine life without it. Just look at how lost we were during the national outage. Kenya's energy production is more than 90% renewable, but did you know that water, also referred to as hydro, provides the bulk of this supply? Well, at the height of the drought, these hydro sources suffered significant water loss, threatening the country's power supply. We've talked about the impacts of climate change on agriculture, the impacts of climate change on health, but we haven't quite talked about the impacts of climate change on power generation. And so to address this, we are on a journey to look at Kenya's power generation systems and how the drought that we just came out of, the worst drought in 40 years, how it has impacted the country's capacity to generate its own power and what lessons we have drawn from that going forward. So we are with the CS, the Minister of Energy, who is our tour guide on this journey.
Today we are in Masinga, the Seven Forks hydro generation. What was pitched to be the generation for the Kenyan economy up to the year 2000, when we had a significant drought, which brought us almost to our knees. And this is when we brought the Agrecos, the IBA Africa, to support us to generate the power on an emergency basis. Like you said, the challenge of climate change is real. As you can see at Masinga, it has been developed to take water up to a height of 1056 meters. The minimum here we can go is 1056, but today we are at 1041. So that's quite significant in terms of really over-relying on hydrology because of the climate change issues. Whereas previously we could generate 50% of the total energy for Kenya from the 800 megawatts of hydro. Today we are only doing 20%. We are running this cascade at about 49% today, whereas 49% capacity, available capacity, we are generating at 291 megawatts today, and yet the capacity of the cascade is 595. So that is 50% unavailability.
Masinga Dam has a capacity of 1056 meters, and that line on that pillar there indicates how far or how high 1056 meters is. And to put it into context, from this bridge where we're standing, 1056 will extend beyond those trees in my background and cover a distance of 45 kilometers. But now, because of the droughts, as this dam and many other dams struggle to survive, the dam is only now at 1036 meters above sea level, which is not quite enough for power generation, but manageable, because now it means the power generators only have about 4 meters of water to generate power with, and what they're missing is 15 meters of power of water. Now, what does 15 meters mean? Look at it in building terms, in terms of a building. 15 meters is basically 7 floors of a building. That is how much water is missing from Masinga Dam.
So currently you are only developing 12 megawatts out of the 40.
For the 40, yeah.
40 out
yes,
of
we're doing the 12 megawatt. Why? We want to, we're doing water management. From here, the water goes to Kaburu.
Yeah.
Only in Kaburu, there are 2 rivers. There's the River, and the water from Masinga, there's Tana River.
So that is better facility. Got more water.
There are more water. So because of the inflows at Madiba, we are able to manage the water from Kaburu, so that we discharge less, we manage less, so that we can be able to go up to the next raise, which is around October.
Yeah.
The Seven Forks Cascade, which includes Masinga, Kamburu, Gitaru, Kindaruma and Kiambere dams, is Kenya's main hydropower producer. The Seven Forks Cascade sits in the eastern part of Kenya and is part of the River Tana drainage system. Combined, the dams produce a total of 600 megawatts. It is called a cascade because the dams are built in a slanted manner that allows the water from one station to feed into and power the station downstream.
If we run at 20 megawatts,
the low water levels in the dam has allowed the engineers to do some repairs at the Masinga Dam to strengthen the wall of the spillway. The spillway is usually used when the dam is full.
Have we ever, has it ever been to 1055, 1056?
Yes, the year 2020.
2020.
This is the time we spilled a lot.
Yeah.
The time when we had a problem with our spillway.
Okay.
Because we went up to 1058, 10.25.
When Masinga Dam reaches its maximum capacity of 1056 meters above sea level, this here, which kind of looks like just a huge trench, is what's known as a spillway. And this spillway is what takes away the excess water from the dam. Now, what does that mean exactly? This is what it looks like. Geothermal wells are loud. Everyone here is wearing earplugs to muffle the sound, but even with the plugs, it is still unbelievably loud. It is a historical day for Kenya today. This is Paka Geothermal Station, and for the first time ever, it is joining the national grid. On this day, as this plant was fired up, Kenya moved up on the global ranking of geothermal power producer and now occupies position number 6. Now where are we, CS?
We're at Paka.
We're at Paka.
Paka is in Thiati.
In Thiati constituency, Baringo County. Great. So what are we doing here?
Here at Paka sign up, we are drilling tunachimba msima. We are drilling wells, geothermal wells, to develop more steam, which will run the turbines to generate power. You know, in the Rift Valley, something that did not look like it had much value, because ukiona hizi mawe unaweza kushindwa hii shamba ni ya kufanya nini. It's been God blessings for us that in the Rift Valley has got what we call ring of fire. The geothermal is about 3 kilometers. We drill to about
3 kilometers below the ground.
3 kilometers below the ground. So like the well we have seen, which is discharging at about 20 megawatts capacity, is being drilled to 3 kilometers.
That well was so loud. Are they all that loud?
They are so loud, and before it was taken through those silencers, I think the decibel level was about 110, one which can damage your eardrums. So at Paka, we just opened this field. We have drilled 14 wells. We have today about equivalent of 70 megawatts. And 70 megawatts is one of those big power plants in Olkaria we saw this morning. And so it's a very successful, very productive geothermal field.
Okay. Yeah. So as we go around the country documenting this impacts of climate change, we're also looking at solutions that communities and other players are putting on the ground. And from the discussions I've had with you before, you're looking at geothermal as a solution, as a climate solution. How is geothermal providing this solution for Kenya?
Geothermal is a big solution for Kenya. Geothermal is such a renewable energy that you are using the heat almost closer to the center of the earth to heat the water, get the steam, and you re-inject the water. So it's basically a renewable, because you the water that has been spent is reinjected back, and you get back the steam. That steam comes at about between 5 bar to 10 bar pressure.
What does that mean?
That means ile nguvu, the energy, the pressure, the pressure which it comes out at is able to drive. You saw that pressure. That noise was not noise.
Yeah.
That noise was energy, and that pressure is used to drive turbines. We'll build a steam gathering system and take it to a power plant. It's at a temperature of between 200 to 220. So
the temperature of that steam.
The temperature of that steam. As we leverage more on geothermal, because we understand how to do geothermal today from a cost economics, we understand how to do geothermal from an engineering perspective, we understand how to do geothermal from the fact that it is green energy, and there's so much money willing to go to green generation because of climate change and adaptation issues. That is the way to go for us, but we are also going out of Kenya to help our neighbors to develop geothermal.
Geothermal power has been a blessing for Kenya in light of the drought. While water supply went low in the dams and reducing the share of hydropower on the grid, geothermal remained steady. On Climate Hackers, we explore how renewables are helping build resilient energy systems.
Because of the challenge we faced in the early 90s when we had the drought, and when government decided to do geothermal significant investments, and to the extent that our base load today is from geothermal, which is green energy, and hydro. We know how to develop geothermal today. Like we've seen out of Paka, we've seen one well which is producing at 20 megawatts, which was we opened and witnessed the opening today, with that noise and that huge pressure. We came out of Meningai, where they started dispatching 35 megawatts today, and we have another 2 plants which are coming under construction. We mentioned that Paka will start generating maybe 100 megawatts by end of this year. And so as we work on this transmission to be able to evacuate the power to the load centers, where our people live and where the industry is, we will continue to work on securing energy for this country. The industrial parks, particularly the special economic zones, are really manufacturing accelerators, which are seeking to move our GDP to manufacturing from 8% to 15%. And then therefore we need to accelerate power development. But granted that we are in the green space already, 92% of our energy today is green. We should be able to work on this space. But more importantly, we are bringing more private sector now, investment.
Like the guys who are doing this project.
Correct. And you have seen that these are huge investments.
Yes.
And investments where if they sit on balance sheet, government balance sheet, it is not sustainable.
Today, Kenya's energy mix is 91% green, with geothermal accounting for 47% of the production. Over the last few years, the country has also been investing in wind and solar energy, whose contribution is 12% and 2% respectively.
One of the biggest solar plants maybe in Africa today is in Garissa, 50 megawatts. Today, I'm told it is dispatching up to 38 megawatts because of the good solar energy. And what that basically means, we are really catching up with the development of some of our renewables in solar. We need to do more solar, we need to do more wind as we get the battery storage stabilization systems.
This is the substation that powers the Konza Technopolis, the Konza city as we know it, and it is located within the Konza complex itself. Right now there are still some works going on within it to build a road network that will come here, putting some final touches to it. But one thing to note is that this substation is 100% green energy. Kenya stands tall among African countries that produce wind power and hosts the largest wind farm on the continent, the Lake Turkana Wind Power. Prior to the Lake Turkana Wind Power project, Kenya only had one other plant located on Gong Hills with a capacity of 25.5 megawatts. but it now has at least 6 other projects in the pipeline. Today, the country also earns carbon credits through its geothermal sites, which are currently offsetting an average of 4 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And as the Africa Climate Summit begins tomorrow, Kenya is hopeful that the agenda on green energy transition will be brought to the fore and that Africa will have something to learn from Kenya.
One of the big lessons is to develop the more resilient plants for power generation, more resilient to climate change, but more importantly to work on the climate change issues. We need to work on adaptation. We need to work more importantly on how do we really ensure that our water, our rains are able to come back. The fossil fuel is reduced significantly by going more into EV in the coming days as a mitigation to the climate challenge. And so you will see government working more into using cleaner fuel.
Now that you mentioned electric vehicles, this transition, how do you see it playing out locally? Because a lot of the vehicles we have on the roads are diesel powered, petrol powered, and the likes. So in order to transition to the EV future, do I need to get rid of the fossil fuel vehicle I have, or is there a way the engine can be converted?
You know, if you see the life of a vehicle being 10 years, so to say, and the fact that the industry is going to be transitioning significantly to EV, there'll be a number of conversions coming. So we'll see a lot of conversion kits coming to move our vehicles from a combustion engine to electric engines, basically by installing a motor so that you can take in electric energy and, of course, a battery to be able to store the power.
Did you know that Kajiado County hosts the second largest wind farm in Kenya? Well, it does. This is Kipeto Wind Farm in Kajiado West constituency, and this is just one of the 60 turbines that are hosted in this power station. Now, what's unique about this power station is that it's able to conserve the biodiversity within here. Biodiversity, in this case, I mean the endangered vulture species, such that the team here can shut down that turbine within 43 seconds if one of those endangered birds are spotted. But the key point I hope you've learned in this episode is the impact of climate change on power generation, because and what Kenya is doing about it, because solar farms such as this one are able to bring the solutions where hydropower is unable to cope. This Kipeto station benefits at least 250,000 households within this Kajiado area and also outside of Kajiado each year. See you again next week.